Hey, it's Tia Carrere, and you're listening to Kino Kingdom with Britt
and Lazlo
and Rupert. Party on, guys.
Hello all, and thank you for listening to us at Kino Kingdom. I'll say it at the start, you can email us out, themenwhotalk@outlook.com. We had a lot planned for this episode, but we've decided that that we're not going to do it. We're going to plow through. This is going to be nothing but reviews and an ArkinZ'Dar. So there's no messing around this time. It's straight into the action. Lazlo, as always, has got the most movies. So what's up first on the menu, Laz?
It's like I'm the one who doesn't have children. It's weird.
Weird, isn't it? We can squeeze in 6 and you come sailing in with your 12. All of them Children of the Corn spin-offs.
Did I talk about Cuckoo last time?
I think so. That does sound familiar.
It's sat in between lists, so I don't know. Anyway, that's okay.
Have you got like notes with like pen and paper and everything written down? And
yeah, it's like it's pages were stuck together, so I don't know.
Oh, right. That was obviously talking about what you were going to do on your desert island, wasn't it?
That's how good Cuckoo was.
It didn't even star Sean Bean.
I did see something. I've got a Sean Bean film this week, actually.
Of course you have.
If there was a female porn version of Sean Bean, do you think she'd be called Sean Beaning Off? I mean, that writes itself, doesn't it? Oh, yeah, this podcast isn't safe for kids. Oh, yeah. We swear. I think a couple of episodes ago, I think I said blinking heck at one point.
I said Crikey Moses last week. But,
yeah. Well, that is my name, and you were addressing me at the time, so that makes sense. What are you going to call him, Mr. Moses? We're thinking Crikey. I think Crikey or Blimey, otherwise like a... My wife wanted to call him
ABC or whatever that...
A, B, C, D, E. Yeah, that's just like she was working out to spell it. What are you going to call him? A, B, C. No, that's no. I was just planning it.
But apparently you pronounce it Abkada. I suppose you'd have to, really, wouldn't you?
Well,
there's not really another way of pronouncing it.
You can get away with Abe.
There are many other names you could call a child, man.
Dennis is out there, isn't it, already?
Exactly.
So
Clive.
Quaid. Randy.
QWERTY.
Lloyd. Bo. Jeff. Right, what's the first? Gary with 2 R's. What's the first
film? I will talk about The Wild Robot. Have you guys seen this?
I've never even heard of it.
This is, I think it underperformed, but it's a new animated film, and I really enjoyed this one. It's so, in brief, it's like about a high-tech service robot that washes up on a remote island and tries to figure out how it got there and how to survive on an island where all the wildlife basically hates it or tries to live in it or whatever, and like attacks it and thinks it's a threat. And the first 20 minutes or so, I don't think there's any dialogue other than the robot just trying to say hello to people, to the animals, and it just leans into the sort of visual storytelling, and it was really good, like really gripping. And then it turns a corner where the robot learns how to communicate with animals, so it kind of talks their language, and then they all start talking to each other. It gets slightly less good from that point on. I was kind of hoping the whole film was just going to be...
I was going to say, that's kind of a cool idea, because you're just looking at the poster for this. I remember seeing a trailer for it, I think, when I watched like Despicable Me 40,000 like last year, and I thought, oh, that's amazing. We'll have to come again for this. And it was really it looked really cute. So it's good to know here that it was a good one.
When I saw the trailer for this, I thought, I couldn't tell if it was a computer game or a film, which is probably a bit of an issue. It may be that's why it didn't do so well, but it's really, really worth a watch. I was not fussed on this at all, but my other half was like, "Oh, it looks cute," and okay, and then within about the first 2 minutes, it hooked me in, and I was going to sort of do work whilst watching it, and the work did not get done.
Good sign.
Yeah, and
ironically, you work at the job centre, don't you?
And I would say that kids, it's good for kids and adults. And because whilst there's lots of cute stuff with the animals and the robot's interactions with them, it kind of cleverly mirrors like a lifespan of a person, because the robot is sort of initially completely naive and sort of tossed into this strange world where everything is seemingly a threat. And then it kind of befriends the animals and then kind of becomes like an adoptive sort of mother to these creatures and deals with rejection and loneliness. And then the animals sort of fly in the coop as they kind of fly south for winter and things like that. It was like, I see what you're doing here. This is clever and quite, so it was emotionally touching as well.
Yeah, but also fast moving and quite exciting. I'd say it's not one of those, like, it starts very quickly, it's straight into the action sort of thing, and there's no messing about. And although it does have like quite serious themes, it's also just fun enough for very young kids, because my son enjoyed it a lot, enjoyed the songs especially. Because, well, I say the songs, it's not a musical.
Are there songs in the film, or were you just singing in the cinema?
Yeah, I was just mumbling with it. No, it has, like, I don't know, some pop country artist on the soundtrack, and it was they were fine. They're kind of uplifting, life affirming type songs. Yeah, I thought the visual style was very arresting. I'd say it's quite watercolory at times. It's nice.
Yeah,
it's not wanky and art house. I mean, it's very fast moving, exciting as well.
It's like digital, but with visible kind of painty brushstrokes kind of thing. Yeah.
Apparently, Lazlo, it's interesting you said that you weren't sure if this was a movie or a video game, because apparently there is a video game adaptation of this, and it's done by Ocean Software on the Commodore 64, and it's a side-scrolling platformer.
Whoa.
Yeah.
They're really pushing the boat, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a genre they're usually known for, is it? I mean, usually they're known for, flip screen platformers, so the fact this is side-scrolling is like, whoa, okay, I might have to get my Commodore 64 out of the past where I keep it.
Or if it's easier, you could just go to the past and play it there.
Well, I've seen Primer. They make it sound so snappy to just like zip back and forth. I might do it myself. Well, because I haven't heard my own voice for a little while, and because I usually do the preamble at the start and talk a load of bollocks and sponsorship, obviously, which we'll have to hold off the next one, I'm going to do a quick 2-minute and talk about a Christopher Lambert to you Westerners out there, film called Absalon, Absolon. I really like Christopher Lambert, right? But I realised that I only really like him for Highlander 1. And I thought, I don't know why, when I saw him in, is it called Hail Caesar? Ironically, Clancy Brown was in the same film, but they didn't share any scenes, but I'll let that slide. And I realised that the only other film I can remember seeing him in is Mean Guns, which is like historically terrible. That's the one I've mentioned a couple of times over the years on the podcast, where it's supposed to be him and Mary Van Peebles in a sort of fight to the death. But what actually happens is they just sit under a table and like talk about their kids and reminisce in like tedious, soft focus flashbacks. So, and I think that was Mark L. Lester as well. And in a film called Adrenaline, which is absolutely dreadful, and it's just him in a sewer looking in the water, which again isn't really what I want in a film. Or in real life,
they don't really match the titles, do they?
No.
Is it called Dremlin?
Adrenaline.
Oh, Adrenaline. Okay. I was like, is it like Gremlins with a D?
No.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
It's like sounds like, my asthma's playing up, doctor. Oh, don't worry, I got a bottle of Dremlin here for you to shove up your toot. So yeah, Absalon is set in a post-apocalyptic future, which looks surprisingly like the field near an industrial estate in Canada, and there's this plague that has swept the earth. This is all told in text at the start. It's this plague that's sort of going across the earth, and this drug called Absalon is the only thing that can stop it. So you have to take it, and obviously those in upper society get as much Absalon as they need, lower class society do whatever they can to get it. But most of the film is Christopher Lambert, who plays a cop, and he discovers that this person who supposedly has found a sort of actual like a vaccination for this drug, so Absalom isn't needed anymore, gets killed, and he gets sort of thrown into the plot of like who's trying to stop it, who would benefit from this not coming out. Spoiler alert, it's a massive corporation with Ron Perlman at its head. Ron Perlman, who sitteth behindeth the desketh, and Stepheneth Segaleth it uppeth in this film in 2003. Naturally, his main henchman that he sends out to do his dirty work and overact as much as he possibly can in a trench coat and glasses like it's the Matrix, Lou Diamond Phillips. So a lot of the film is them just sort of meandering around fields, and this supposed wasteland, but it's clearly just like 90s, like a shit 90s apartment, and it's kind of fun in a cheap way because I was watching it, and it was only when I was halfway through and I went on my phone and realized it was 2003, and I just assumed it was 1996. It's just got that vibe about it. So it's kind of a silly, fun film. It's nice to see Christopher Lambert in something else, but as an asthma sufferer, I really genuinely, and I think this only happens with him and Ed Burns, I struggle with the way they talk because it sounds like they've got cardiovascular diseases. He's like really breathy, and he runs out of breath really quickly, and his laugh is like a weird choking gasp, and it makes me uncomfortable to watch his movies. But I suffer through. So yeah, Absalom. It's cheap, it's silly, but it's Christopher Lambert in a coat.
That's all I needed to hear.
Yeah, that should have just been that. That's probably the title of this episode. Kino 104, Christopher Lambert in a coat.
Where can we see Absalom?
On Prime. On Prime. I wouldn't believe it. You thought I was going to say Paramount Plus, but I came with Prime.
There's nothing that good on Paramount Plus.
Gosh.
This was in the right aspect ratio, so I could guess which one I was watching it on without looking.
Okay. Well, I will launch into a screener review then.
Nice.
I watched a film called Salvable, which
is that a word, or did they mistype salvageable? Salvable. Let me just type that in.
I feel like I looked this up, and it is a word. I think.
Right. Okay. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure what the relevance of it is.
Capable? No. You type in salvable, and it comes up with solvable. No, salvable. Salvable means capable of being saved, rescued, or recovered.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay,
like
you'll find out why.
Salvation. Yeah.
Okay. So it does sound a bit like salvageable. Anyway, this film has received very middling reviews. I'd say it's marginally above middling. It is the debut feature of two directors, Bjorn Franklin and Johnny Marchetta. Franklin wrote the script, and one thing that stands out instantly from the very first shot is they capture the persistent greyness of South Wales very well. Penarth Pier.
Is this a Welsh film?
It was filmed in Wales. Penarth Pier features heavily in this movie, and apparently a lot of it was filmed in Barry. So Toby Kebbell plays a care home employee who's also an ex-boxer, and he's living in a caravan. He's divorced from his wife, and he's about to lose all custody rights to his teenage daughter, so he kind of needs to sort his life out. He gets tempted into earning money by refereeing for his old buddy, Shia LaBeouf, who runs bare-knuckle boxing fights. And as things steadily fall apart, he becomes more desperate and gets drawn into the general gangster violence of Shia LaBeouf's operation. Shia LaBeouf in this film has a slightly odd Irish accent, and he's mostly unintelligible, but he is very intense and believably menacing, whilst also being kind of pathetic. But I think Toby Kebbell is the standout. He's not a completely broken man, but he does have a bit of a temper on him, and he makes some poor decisions. And I like how he portrays him as world weary, but kind of sarcastic and not completely hopeless. It's like a social realist drama, and it doesn't do anything really new in the whole like life sucks but redemption is possible subgenre, and the film does brush up against what we might call misery porn. Yeah, this script is kind of quite clever in a way. I noticed after a while that it almost like the way it's structured, the dialogue structure, it almost feels like or structure and events. The dialogue and events, they kind of, it sounds like, it feels like a kind of boxing match in itself, because it's like for every like jab of good news that Toby Kebbell receives, he's just then immediately hit by like an
uppercut,
1-2 punch, of like losing his job and getting an unpaid energy bill or whatever. Speaking of unpaid energy bills, actually, turn on the fucking lights in this movie. Jesus Christ. And I mean, he might spend a bit less time drinking straight from the bottle on the floor of his caravan if he just turned on a lamp or something. Jesus Christ. It's well directed and well edited, and Kebbell and LaBeouf are good, and James Cosmo's in it. He's always reliable. James Cosmo must have been in Game of Thrones, surely.
He was.
Yeah.
He was.
Oh, and there are some actual boxing scenes, so there you go.
That's me out then.
It's pretty solid. Not exactly a rib tickler, shall we say? But Toby and Shire make it very watchable. I'm not sure.
Does Shire attempt a Welsh accent?
No, he's going for Irish. I know.
So it was just filmed in Wales, but not specified, which is good. It's really interesting. You were talking about that, and I was just looking at the post. When you type in "salvable movie" on Google, which is different to the Wikipedia thing. When I first came up, before I saw the names of the bomb, I honestly thought that was Thomas Jane with the yellow boxing gloves on.
I'm gonna have to see this.
You see what I mean? I honestly thought, right, Thomas Jane Shia LaBeouf. That's cool.
So I'm
that's Kebbell, I think.
Yeah. I can sort of see it now, but when I first glanced, I thought that just looks like Thomas Jane.
He's kind of bulked up for this, isn't he? I think.
So that was Salvable, which is out now on all digital streaming platforms where you can purchase rentals.
If you're in a good mood and you want that bringing down, it's available now.
Or if you're in a bad mood and living in South Wales and you really want to dwell on it.
Well, if you want a better representation of South Wales in film than Havoc, then watch it as well. And also just wanted to say that, both those people, Shia LaBeouf and Toby Kebbell, are really interesting actors that I'm not sure I could say from what I've seen they've been in a bad film or had like a bad performance. So that's interesting as well.
Maybe we should watch the Shia LaBeouf documentary.
I do want to see that.
And see if he's not a bad actor but a bad person.
I've heard about that he was quite quick to put an extra sugar in his tea every now and again, wasn't he? He's an excitable young chap. But Lazlo, what have you got up your pipe for us?
So, switching to horror, I watched. I'm sure either at least one of you has seen this too. Heretic.
Yes. Yep.
Both seen.
Yes.
You haven't talked about it before.
Have you?
Maybe
we have talked. Yeah, I covered it on the podcast when it came out last year. I think. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
good to see you, a long-term listener, Lazlo. Thanks for joining us as a co-host.
We can just skip over this then because I've got spare.
No. Do a quick 2-minute by all means. It's always nice to hear someone else's perspective on it.
Well, in fairness, I don't want to say much about it because it's one of those films that the less you know, the better it is. It revolves around two young Mormon women knocking on Hugh Grant's door and attempting to indoctrinate him, but then they discover that he is his house has got more to it than meets the eye, and he has his own very elaborate plan to challenge their belief system, you could say. And I enjoyed this, but I think it paid to have not seen the trailers or anything beforehand and just gone in cold, because the fun is not knowing where it's going.
Yeah.
And when it gets there, I would say that it ultimately didn't. It kind of fell apart a little bit because his plan was never really going to make sense or hang together, and it doesn't really. But the ride was fun. So yeah, worth a watch.
It made me realise that I don't like I didn't like the trailer for this. I don't like trailers that kind of like show you a whole scene, but kind of truncate it for the sake of it being a trailer. So it's like meant to be a tense scene, but they've obviously just like massively cut it down. So it's like a kind of like like a sped up version of what would be a really tense scene, and that bothers me.
Yeah, I can't see how a film director would appreciate that either.
No.
Like having all the pauses cut out of every
Yeah.
conversation. It's sort of like there's staccato talking at each other.
It's true when you see the film, but I remember the trailer being something that made me think, oh, okay.
But is that mostly because you wanted to see Hugh Grant being a bit of a dinker?
I do like Hugh Grant. Yeah, in his ever since The Gentleman, he completely won me over, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know. I same thing as you. It's a problem I often have with horror films where this great lead up, and then
yes,
in the end, it's almost like they say, right, it's the last 50 minutes. We're a horror film, so we're gonna have to do this now. And you sometimes okay.
This is an issue that's going to come up later in this episode again.
Apparently, a guy I work with said the same thing. He said, "Have you ever seen a film called Brick?" And I thought he was talking about the Joseph Gordon-Levitt film from 20 years ago. And I said, "Yes, I have." And he said, "No, it's a new one." And he said, it was quite amusing. He said, "Oh yeah, it's about this couple and they argue, and then she goes to leave, and they find out the apartment is bricked up with these weird bricks, and they have to get out." And I said, "Boom, Dave." Is this film going to be a really intriguing premise that falls apart in the latter half with a really unsatisfying ending? And he pointed at me and went, "Yes!" And I said, "I'm probably not going to watch it then." But yeah,
the first half.
Then I'll turn it off and watch Red Dwarf Series 7. This film, Heretic, I just want to say that my soul... people talk about, when the Jehovah's Witnesses knock the door and stuff. My story of that is that when I lived in my old flat in Cardiff, I'd been out the night before and I was really, really hungover. But I was waiting for delivery of something like the next day, and it was something important, like a new TV or a toilet or whatever. Really important. And I've gone to bed for about an hour and a half, and then I heard my door go. And I was in my boxes, as I often am, as you both know. My hair everywhere, like a nest on my head. No contact lenses, so I couldn't see anything. And I said, "No, my TV." And I put the key in my hand. I ran out the front door and opened it. And there was a couple in their 40s there with a little boy all dressed up really nicely. And I said, "What?" Because I was so confused. And she covered the little boy's eyes. And the father said, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir, I'm sorry." And then turned round and wandered off. And that was my own interaction with the Jehovah's Witness family.
Brilliant.
So if they're listening, I apologise. I probably stank as well. I just opened the door smelling of last night. So, yeah.
I have a Jehovah's Witness story as well. Well, they weren't Jehovah's Witnesses, but I feel like we could just take over the whole podcast with these stories. So maybe I'll save it for another time.
Heretic. All agree it's good, but a little bit shaky at the end, as is often the case with horror films.
Yes.
Which leads me to the Equalizer 3. I've watched these films without realizing they even have sequels. Like I've watched them randomly over the years they've come out, and I've always enjoyed them, but the first one was kind of like a John Wicky sort of thing. But so this third one released in 2023, and I had no idea it even existed. And apparently he signed up for another trilogy, which is completely fine.
Wow.
So I don't know if everyone knows the Edward Woodward stuff from the 80s, which I used to watch with my nan. I think clearly old enough to watch that at the time, and then it's just basically they've remade a Hollywood version, and it's Denzel Washington just as Robert McCall, same character name, which is a nice touch, just moving through these periods of his life where he's sort of this retired agent and he just sort of ends up helping out people, sort of the person on the street. This film starts off with him having assaulted a vineyard somewhere in Italy, I think it is, or Sardinia, and he escapes using his skills. but gets wounded, quite seriously wounded. And the whole film is him recuperating in this Italian town. And he obviously finds out that this town is being assaulted by ne'er-do-wells. And so he fights back on behalf of the town. And I kind of knew this was going to start, and I knew exactly how it was going to end. But there was something really Moorish about this film. It reminded me in the same sort of sense, even though it's an action, sort of a, what do they call it, Jerry action retiree film. With I got the same vibes as I did from that film with Ralph Fiennes as a chef, where everything is so luxurious. And I said to Max, one of our listeners, that this film made me just want to go to Italy and drink coffee. And he said, yeah, but a Costa Coffee does that as well, doesn't it? And I thought that's a fair point. But him sort of ingratiating himself with this little township, and it's so picturesque. This whole town is built into the side of a cliff, and it's obviously a real place. That it was so pretty to watch, and the story was so functional. But then you've got Denzel giving it loads in the middle of it. That I quite like watching him take down this gang, and and then they go into a cafe and kick off, and he kicks the shit out of them, or he's at the fishmongers and overhears something. I think, someone's going to get their neck snapped tonight after I've had my coffee. It was just a really pleasurable film to watch. And when I found it afterwards, Denzel's 70. And when they said he signed up for another trilogy, I thought, I'll watch those. And I think it will be my version of my nan watching, what's that thing called, Treasure in the Attic or the Antiques Roadshow. It kind of gives me that, comfort. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of the Equalizer films, and I will watch the other three.
And there'll be an equal number of sort of geriatric people in both your nan's show and the subsequent Equalizer trilogy, I guess.
Well, yeah, because the star of the film is older than the people doing the antiquing 30 years ago. So it's quite the cycle we're in.
I felt because I've seen this one, and apart from the fact that they filmed in exactly the same place as Ripley, the TV series, so I found it quite distracting. I was like, he's literally in the same archway in the same town, and I think in this film it was like a restaurant, but in Ripley it was a police station or printers or something. The other way around, it was like the same location. Anyway, aside from that, I thought they've signed up to do this because they get to hang around in one of the most beautiful towns in the world and make a film there. And I did not find it very exciting at all. I was a bit bored.
I wasn't excited by it. I was kind of just like I said, it's almost like one of those chill channels. It's just, where they just play lo-fi hip-hop and you're just a cabin by the water. I had that kind of vibe.
It doesn't feel like that's the intended vibe to get from a film like The Equalizer. But
yeah.
Is it the same town that George Clooney's in The American?
Probably. I can't. It's been a long time since I watched that.
That was another film I enjoyed.
Yeah. Again, that's quite luxurious as well.
Yes, yeah. It's just him putting guns together and drinking coffee and looking out over vistas. This is fine. It's my version of location.
It did that problem again where the bad guy is a complete no one. They're not they're not a recognizable face. They have no real charisma or menace, and they're not given much in the writing either. That was the other problem.
I think this. I felt like he was supposed to be a ratty nobody. I kind of like that aspect because it was almost like who's this little rat, with this god complex harassing this really beautiful picturesque town. I'm trying to get some antiques valued over here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Where is that? That's on Netflix, is it?
Yes, I believe it is.
Yes. Okay, I have another screener to speak of. This one's called Frankie Frico, which is an 80s styled 80-minute comedy horror. And it's about a dull office worker who's struggling in his relationship, and his wife wants some spice in their life, but he's just too dull and lifeless to satisfy her. Then he sees an advert on TV for Frankie Frico, which is presented by this little gremlin fella. And the guy's wife goes away for the weekend, so he decides to celebrate his work promotion by calling Frankie Frico and injecting some fun into his life. So 3 of these gremlins rock up and just start trashing his house and tormenting him, basically. And some more crazy shit happens, and he actually ends up befriending them and going on some crazy adventures, but he will have to face his wife when she returns to this complete bomb site. This is written and directed by Steven Kostanski, who also made cult favourites Psycho Gorman and The Void. I haven't seen Psycho Gorman. I saw The Void. It's a little bit disappointed, but
hang on, is that the one set in a video store, or is that The Gate?
It might be The Gate. The Void is like in a police station, is it?
Hang on, I think I've seen this.
It's got a vaguely alluring cover.
Yeah.
The Void. I think I've seen it a few times and been curious, and then read that it's like a splatter horror thing. I was like,
It was a bit slavish to 80s horror, which this is as well. Think about Frankie Frico, it channels a very random energy, and I put that in quotation marks, which is a bit annoying and off-putting. It just feels like a bunch of ideas thrown together without any thought. I mean, he's clearly harking back to the likes of like Gremlins, more like Ghoulies and Critters, to be honest. So you have this kind of regular Joe whose world is invaded by puppets performing some quite crass, violent slapstick. And the puppetry is like okay, I guess, of a quality consistent with the time of those inspirations, but that was more than 40 years ago. And they're not very expressive, and the movements are limited. And of course, I suppose there's a bit of child's play in there as well, where they kind of establish themselves as legit slashers with a bit of commercialism as satire, but then they work their way through various sequels to full-on kitsch and spoof. And this movie tries to do everything all at once, and it kind of fails. It's very juvenile. And actually, it's kind of a reminder of just how lame most 80s VHS movies were. I say, like, it seems to be set in the 80s, although it is just window dressing. You get, like, landline phones and big CRT monitors and big hair. The problem with it is, apart from all that, is that the main guy, we're told that he's incredibly dull, right? And he the worst swear word he'll ever say is like heck. The trouble is he doesn't actually come across as especially boring in most interactions with the world. I realise it's quite difficult in writing to present like a boring person as your protagonist and make them engaging, but he is constantly like utterly enraged by things, and he's constantly overreacting. And actually, he's incredibly ambitious at work, so he's not really a complete bore. Because if you remember, like Gremlins, it did focus on a slightly dull office worker, but the whole dynamic was that he was an overly nice guy, and the Gremlins were the like expression of his id. In Frankie Frico, he's not a particularly nice or sympathetic person, and he's completely dismissive of his wife's needs, and he's a ruthless ladder climber at work, and he willingly invites these freaks into his home while the wife is away to have some fun. So, like, when the Fricos start tormenting him, you're like, well, maybe you kind of deserved it, really. So, yeah, and it doesn't really make
sense. A major problem if it's a low-budget film about being on someone's side.
It doesn't, and it doesn't really make sense because they basically try and shoot him dead, and they impale his foot with nails, and they maim his boss, and then he suddenly turns to them and says he wants to party with them, and it's like, why? Just to satisfy a movie audience, I guess. There are some fun-ish, gory moments, and it is uncomplicated and fast-moving, and it is brief, but the characterization's a mess, and the tone is all over the place, and it falls into the aggravatingly self-conscious category. It's really pastiche, and it's not very interesting, but it is available now to rent digitally, £3.75.
Again, Rupert's views don't represent all of us here at Kino Kingdom, the Men Who Talk. And with that said, Lazlo, the baton is handed to you rectally.
I'm going to talk about another run-of-the-mill action sequel.
Thank God.
Get things back on track. I watched
the listeners in.
I watched The Accountant 2.
I am very interested. can I just say I'm very intrigued about this because, right, I quite enjoyed The Accountant, and I watched it when I saw this was out. Faye said, I really want to watch this with you because I like the first one. I said, well, let's watch it again so we can remember everything. Yep. We watched the first one, really enjoyed it. And then I said, right, should we watch the second one? And she said, no, I can't be bothered. and that was a bit of a spanner in my plan because I said, right, okay. So, no, I'm waiting for a night when it's just me, and I can watch it. So please, Lazlo, tell me that this is the most fantastic movie you've ever seen for the last 70 years.
I can't tell you that, Britt. I'm afraid this is inferior to the original in nearly every single way. It's long and it's quite boring. In this one, Ben Affleck kind of gets sidelined in favour of John Bernthal, who played his brother in the first one and has a much bigger role this time, who plays a much more kind of colourful character and doesn't really have the flaws of Ben Affleck's character.
Oh, the things that made the first film interesting.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So it's now kind of a buddy thing, and but in doing so, it's more interesting in trying of mending their fractured brother relationship than it is in being an action film. So there's a lot of scenes of them just sort of hanging in bars, and Ben Affleck is sort of not getting the joke, and John Bernthal can't believe he can't get the joke, and then Ben Affleck starts having a woman who sort of takes a shine to him. So John Bernthal is trying to get him to flirt with the girl, but then he's not very good at flirting. But then for some reason, the girl fancies him anyway. I guess he does look like Ben Affleck.
This doesn't sound very good, Lazlo.
No. And there's a lot of this stuff. And I remember there being a scene early on where John Bernthal's introduced, and he's shouting on the phone at a woman, something to do with a pet dog or something. But it goes on for what seemed like 5 whole minutes of him, I think, freewheeling, improvising, like sort of insults that he was throwing at this woman, and then apologizing and then insulting her again. And it went on and on and on. And I was like, is this going to be relevant to the plot? Is this pet dog going to play a part or something? No, that's it. Just there to be funny, and it's not funny. It's again got weak bad guys. There's a kind of a hitman guy who's could be interesting, but then he proves not to be very effective. The bad guy, I literally can't even remember who the bad guy is some dude who does most of his bad guy work over the phone. There's very little action in it. Yeah. If it'd been Steven Seagal, at least that would have been a bit of, I don't know, stunt casting. But no, it's just some guy. There is an action scene at the end where it kind of picks up, but it's still kind of generic. It's just, where they sort of literally shoot 30 or 40 people in an open space, and for some reason the bad guys don't just keep firing at them. They keep sort of running towards them so they can get hit instead. And I can excuse this stuff normally, but I've waited 2 hours to get to this scene, so it was just a bit lazy. So if you want, the only enjoyable aspect of this really is the odd moments of sort of odd couple buddy moments between the two of them where it's not too tedious. But other than that, there ain't much going on here. There's even a bit where a character gets seemingly bumped off. It doesn't matter too much if I spoil this to a degree. And you're like, oh, well, I wasn't expecting that. That's quite shocking. And then it gets unpicked for reasons unknown. I think just plot armor or whatever. And you think, no, the whole point was that they were assassinated, and now they carry on living just because.
You sure you didn't watch Expendables? There's a dissimilar plot point to that.
I've seen that too, and this isn't as bad as that.
No, nothing is. That was bad.
It's only a few steps above, really.
Is there any accountancy in this at all? Or does the title mean nothing now?
Well, that's the thing. Like, there's some odd bits where he. Actually, no, that was in the first one. I'm not even sure there is. It really doesn't lean into what made the first one a little bit
interesting
different.
and fun and different. Yeah,
And
there's
it's
no
justified as
points where
title.
there's no point where he points a gun at someone and says, "Are you VAT registered?" or anything like that.
No, not at all. Really missed the trick there.
Yeah, I should have written the script for that. They didn't get back to me when I sent my account to them, but that is disappointing that it's that bad and boring, you know?
Yeah, The Accountant 2, VAT Returns.
Do they even call it VAT in America? Maybe that's why these jokes
exist in America.
That's why. Maybe for the European title. I, in preparation for 28 Years Later, watched the original 28 Days Later. Have either of you done this over the last couple of weeks?
No. Although I've seen it.
Yeah, so I watched it at the time, and one of the things I remember was the soundtrack is phenomenal to it, and it does the John Carpenter. This is obviously a TMT, 2-minute taster, because it's just breezing through stuff tonight. The soundtrack is phenomenal, and it does the John Carpenter thing of the Assault on Precinct 13 trick of playing parts of a riff or teasing it until key scenes when it plays the whole thing. And that was kind of the main memory I had of this film, was that build of the soundtrack, because I love it when that happens in films. So yeah, it's zombies and Cillian Murphy trying to bugger off. It is really good fun, and it's quite an explosive sort of film with the way it moves forward. It's quite propulsive. But I just wanted to say that I don't know. The new one they filmed on iPhones, haven't they?
Mm.
And I don't know what they filmed this with, but it is a format that does not translate to modern TVs, because I watched this. I think I paid for it on. What did I watch it on? Maybe Prime. I paid for it anyway, and it was so. Obviously, it's sort of filmed in a handheld way, but it's so thrashy, and there's something about the way it was filmed that makes it quite difficult to watch now. And throw that in with some sort of late 90s, early 2000s funk with lots of heavy filters and Dutch angles, and it's quite an unpleasant watch. The film is great, Cillian Murphy's great, and it's a great little horror film, but to watch it is actually quite challenging. It's almost like it feels like you're watching it and it's zoomed in a little bit too far.
This is an early digital movie, isn't it?
Yeah, DV cams, I think.
Which right, I knew. I was hoping one of you would know what. Yeah,
it's like early prosumer cameras or whatever. They're sort of the higher end consumer cameras, and I think the reason for it was so they could have 10 or 20 cameras set up to capture the London stuff. They couldn't afford to have 20 high-end film cameras, so I think that was the reason why they did it, and they just went with it as an aesthetic.
Yeah, because I noticed the last sort of 10 minutes of the film, the sort of epilogue to it, is actually filmed properly. So it's obviously a stylistic choice. But when that happened, I thought, oh my God, I can actually look at it without my eyes trying to constantly refocus. This is a pleasure.
Yeah, I do remember it looking quite ugly, not in terms of composition and stuff, but just literally the image quality.
Yeah. It really hasn't aged well in that way, to the point that there was a point when you pause it to grab a drink or go and get popcorn or whatever, and I was thinking, is it still buffering? That I was just, because I didn't know. I thought, why is it so unpleasant to look at? I don't understand it.
It's basically a 480p image. I think that's about as high as those cameras went.
Blow up, yeah, and it feels like that. And I guess that's unsalvable to sort of go back and say, no, let's tart this up to 8K, because it can't be done, I guess, from those cameras. But it was not an easy watch. Music is great, and Brendan, and fair play to what's his name, Brendan Gleeson,
Mm.
his accent is spot on in this. Because he came out, and because he looked so much younger, I thought, oh, that looked like Brendan Gleeson. But he had such a pinpoint accent, I thought, no, there's no Irish slipping through at all. But fair play to him.
Good work. This has only recently been made available, hasn't it, to actually stream?
I'm not sure.
It was famously not available to stream anywhere for years.
Yeah, imagine
it's such
the
a
number
seminal
of people who
film,
complain,
though. I know.
Who don't
it's
know
like the
deal.
film that revitalized the zombie genre. That's really crazy that it wouldn't.
It's insane, isn't it? But it's there now. It's good,
and it's good. Yeah, just a bit tough. We just maybe sit a bit further back from your telly than usual.
Yeah. Maybe just watch it on an 18-inch CRT instead. Right. Okay. Elio, I'm going to talk about. This is a cinema movie. A kids' film.
This is the new Pixar flop.
The new Pixar. And wouldn't be surprised some people haven't heard of it. It's the biggest ever flop. It's a children's film, naturally. And the synopsis is quite long-winded, actually. But it's about the shy kid who struggles to make friends. His parents are dead. And he is obsessed with contacting aliens on his ham radio. So it's pretty much the same framing device as Contact. He has a fraught relationship with his aunt, who's also his guardian. And after he puts out a welcome message from Earth, he is actually abducted by aliens and brought to a floating citadel in space where different alien cultures reside and live in harmony and strive to achieve balance in the galaxy. And they want him to be the first Earth representative. So pretty much the basis of Mass Effect there. And then a marauding alien commander comes along and threatens to destroy the citadel unless he's accepted in. Elio accidentally kidnaps the marauder's son, who's kind of a worm-like alien, and they develop a close friendship. Various adventures later, they end up having to save the citadel and bring all the different alien cultures together. So it's, as you can see, it's quite a struggle to describe the plot and themes of the film in a single sentence, which I think it may be part of the problem with Pixar, possibly generally these days. Because you think about their classics are quite easy to describe in an appealing way, like toys come to life and get lost and try and find their way home, that kind of thing. But Elio is not a Pixar classic. It's just about okay. It's crushingly sentimental. And I mean, Pixar movies always do try and pull on the heartstrings somewhat, but in this one, it's like it's baked into the plot. These two aliens trying to reconcile their relationship with a caregiver. And, there's also this idea of an imposter clone being put back on Earth to fill in while the real kid is away in space. And that's straight out of Last Starfighter. So it is derivative of a lot of other sci-fi movies, which is fine, I suppose, but it doesn't really have any interesting ideas of its own, new ideas. So
I mean, sentimentality is always a problem for me. But I was more intrigued with when you said at the start, Lazlo, is this the latest Pixar flop? Has it been a rough few years for them then?
Yeah. This one is notable for being, I think, their biggest flop, rather than them having I think they're on a downward trajectory in terms of, which is why they're now desperately going to pedal out Incredibles 3 and Toy Story 6 or whatever.
They kind of got a bit screwed by Disney Plus launching, and then the COVID pandemic stopping people from going to cinema. So they had like a string of films which went straight to Disney Plus. So anyway, this whole concept, this utopian colony of peace-loving hippie aliens, it's a bit undercooked, and I guess it's sort of about the state of the US today, a kind of antidote to tribal political division, and also perhaps about the immigrant experience, the need for inclusiveness. And yet, in this movie, the immigration criteria are pretty strong. Like, the aliens are quite specific about the type of people they want in this colony. Like, they initially accept Elio because he blindly pledges allegiance to them, whereas they deny this warlord dude because he's culturally different to them, and that guy, and he's the marauding guy, is only accept it once he's proven he's willing to lay down his grievances and assimilate into their culture. So it isn't actually as progressive as it looks. And you've got this final message about the world coming together in harmony, or the galaxy coming together in harmony, and it's portrayed in the most saccharine, ridiculous way possible. So anyway, the plot is overcomplicated for young children, that's definitely for sure. Like, my son did not get it. It reminded me a bit of Lightyear, which was another Pixar flop, which had the same issue, and it was also a sci-fi movie, where it gets so bogged down in internal political and psychological dynamics that the characters never just go anywhere. You know, they never really like go on an adventure, and instead every event seems to be like pandering to a kind of central message, and it gets very tiresome. So
yeah,
I
remember that's about that Lightyear film, that he basically gets bogged down in the same place for the whole thing, and you think that is surely the antithesis of what that character is to people. They want him to go on a space adventure.
Yeah.
Not,
he's literally
it's a bit like Lost in Space.
Yeah.
You know, remember Lost in Space, where they suddenly get caught up in a time travel plot, and it just sort of spins its wheels for the whole second half of the film. And you think, no, it was so much more fun. I don't even care if there's not much plot. If they're going to different planets and experiencing a different thing and learning a lesson, and they move on to the next one and there's a whole different thing. And yeah,
so it's pretty drab, this one.
Are Pixar losing their touch? Is that, I was going to say on the originality point, they've never been very original, have they? Because I remember things like, what's the one that Ants? Is it Ants that they did? Or no, Bug's Life is basically Seven Samurai, and and then what's the racing car one is
Cars.
Doc Hollywood.
Yeah,
basically, they kind of nick stories.
Doc Hollywood of all the films to rip off.
Bloody hell.
We need to rip off a mid-80s Michael J. Fox fluff.
I think part of the problem is that they're obviously best in class when it comes to technology and design, but they do seem to be wholly driven by explicit, like, important messages rather than simply telling us fun story that ends up delivering an implicit message. And I just think that's bad writing, really. So yes, I'm
deserving flop.
It's like they all sit around and say, right, this one's about the economy, or this one is about the environment, and it's like,
pretty much
this is the message, we have to just get up to it.
It's just like, just keep flogging flogging this message horse every time until its skin has been flayed off before your very eyes.
It's just a load of mush, and someone comes along and says, "Is that a jellyfish?" No, it's a horse. Oh, right, you've really had a go at that with a whip, haven't you? Yeah,
just a load of crooked bones and strings of flesh.
Sounds like a Tom Waits album cover from the late 90s.
So don't bother with Elio. Well, until it comes
out. It's weird, isn't it? There's like they're like laser cut to kind of precisely deliver an entertainment package, and in doing so, it's like there's no edges, and it's not memorable.
Yeah. Yes, it's very. Yeah, well, sanitized, I suppose, is one way of putting it, but there's nothing. Yeah, you watch the trailer and you pretty much know exactly how the film's going to play out, and it does play out exactly as the trailer looks, and yet it's more boring and more sentimental.
So just watch the trailer?
Pretty much, yeah. Apparently there are a couple of trailers for this because it had quite a troubled production, I think, and there was originally a trailer from a few years ago, like a teaser, which was much like darker or had a more serious tone, and then obviously they completely refitted the whole film, and so the new trailers are all about the whimsy and the slapstick and stuff. But I'm not sure a more serious version of this would have been any more fun, to be honest.
You've just reminded me of, I'm pretty sure it was not Expendables, what's it called? The one, oh my God, my brain is gone. The film that you talked about, Equalizer.
Yeah.
Equalizer 2 trailer. They put one out, and it was all about him and that Oscar-winning actress whose name I've forgotten.
Chloe?
Who was his handler.
Oh.
And and she gets killed. That's kind of like one of the main plots. And so he then goes to track down his former handler's killers. And they put out a trailer that was all about that. And then for some reason, whatever, like they took another tack with the marketing and then put out another trailer that I don't think she even appeared in it. And it was all about him and the young lad in his apartment block who then is getting bullied. And that kind of brings him out of retirement that way. It looks like they put one trailer out that just dealt with kind of the subplot. It was all about him and the black community around him. And then the other one, which was all about the white spy handler woman and the CIA. And it's like, they were just like, we'll just fire them both out and see which one sticks.
The next episode of this podcast, or maybe like one of the next 2 or 3, can we talk about the art of trailers? Because I'm something. Is that something you'd both be interested in?
Yes.
Because yes. Because like for me, I'm like genetically put off things by hype. So if something's hyped, I will just avoid it until I approach it at my own time. I've always done it since I was a kid. And so when I see a trailer, and then because I don't really look, I may watch a trailer, may not. But when they put out a second trailer, I, in my like layman's brain, just assume that means that they're willing to. They're so positive about the film, they're going to put more towards the marketing, not that they're going to change direction. So I would be genuinely interested in hearing about the art of trailers and the creation behind them and the meaning for doing certain ones.
And how misleading they can so often be.
Yeah. Would that be, would you reckon, next episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like okay, I'm sure the listeners would be up for it. Cool. So sorry to interrupt. I realize it's just something I've never thought about is trailers.
Nope. I've got lots of little thoughts on trailers where they've like especially the Marvel ones and that, where they put out trailers which are full of stuff that aren't in the final product. Sometimes to conserve, spoilers, and other times just lying to the consumers to get them to watch the film.
Wow.
Anyway, shall I move on to another cartoon that I watched?
Sure.
Which was
please.
Killer of Killers.
Oh, this is the new animated thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, please talk about this. When did you see it, first of all?
This is on Disney Plus.
Good.
Straight to Disney Plus. No cinema release for this. But in a way, I can kind of understand why, because it's obviously inspired by things like Love, Death and Robots, and that. It's a film, but it's made up of short stories. 3 short Predator adventures that then have a 4th one that ties them together. And it's by the guy Dan Trachtenberg, who did the recent Prey Predator film. And is also doing the upcoming Predator Badlands film, which comes out this year. And it follows the same kind of model as Prey in that each story takes place in a different point in history. So there's a Vikings versus Predator one, and there's a sort of feudal Japan samurais
Can I just
fighting.
Quickly say, right, I was just as you were saying that, I remember seeing something on social media over the last couple of weeks where someone shared like the poster of it and said, "Oh, so this is what we're going to do, is it? Predator films are now just going to be like predators in different times fighting something." And I thought that is exactly what I hoped after I saw Prey. I remember on this very podcast saying, "I hope it's just a predator moving from place to place in a completely alien language, or and it's just all done through the action." So I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, and then the third section is World War II. So they've picked the juiciest in a way, short of like, I don't know, pirates I remember being talked about at one point in time, or cowboys or something would be kind of cool. They've picked some really good, but what it also says to me is that they're not going to make these as films, which is a shame in a way, because I'd be quite happy to watch Vikings trying to kill a predator for a feature-length thing.
You and Vikings, yes. Lazlo, you've got a real thing about Vikings, haven't you? I go for Vikings.
Yeah. Who doesn't like a good Viking? I don't know where I'm going with that. And so sadly, though, the 4th one, which then tries to tie these stories together, is probably the least effective one. And it's not really a spoiler to say that it ends on a cliffhanger. So you've kind of got three things that then culminate into one thing, and then it teases maybe more, which is kind of okay, but ultimately it was a slightly unfulfilling experience. And also it has a cumulative effect of you seeing humans kill predators in multiple times during the course of one film. So by the end of it, you kind of feel like predators are not really as threatening as they could be. So it has a slightly odd effect.
Killer of killers, and yet they're constantly being killed. So you're like,
is the suggestion that they are learning that the early predators might not have been as well prepared, and they get better and better as they go on?
I think that's a level of depth that this film is not really interested in.
Okay.
Each of the predators has like a different kind of style, but there's no suggestion of deeper learnings going on, other than with the humans, where they kind of learn from their experience. Because I'm being slightly dismissive, because in each case the predators are killing swathes of people, but then it always boils down to the Arnie of each era who is able to kind of stand their ground and learn.
And I can see that one of those Arnies is Michael Biehn, apparently.
Yes. There's some nice voice cameos in there, and it's really like it's fun and exciting, and they managed to avoid, in each time period, they don't slather mud on themselves to get out of it. They come up with some new ways to beat predators.
Well, in Viking days they already had shit all over them, didn't they, I suppose?
Yeah, not a problem. It was fucking freezing where they were, so they were all just
showed up as blue.
Yeah. But yeah, so if you want a quick and fun slash 'em up predator action thing, then you could, there's definitely worth checking out. But it's not. People were saying, this should have had a cinematic release and stuff, and I'm thinking it doesn't really stand up, I don't think, in the cinema. It's a cool collection of shorts, and it probably works better on TV.
Even stuff like the animated stuff I really love, like Mask of the Phantasm. They don't feel. I don't feel like they're cinema worthy. There's something about a lot of animated films that let that story be told on the small screen. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, these characters are not rich, deep layered characters. They're just kind of caricatures. Really, it's all quite simple in that regard.
What is the animation style, and is it different in each story, or is it consistent?
It's the same style throughout. It reminded me a lot of Arcane, which is so it looks good. It's kind of, what's that computer game that Arcane reminded me of? It's kind of
well, Arcane Studios did. What's your favorite video game, Rupert? That one, stealthy one.
They did two of them. Yeah, it's a stealthy cyberpunk.
Dishonored.
Cyberpunk Steam. Yes, Dishonored. It looks similar to that, but they've kind of broad stroke paint, kind of, but digital. Yeah. I guess not radically dissimilar to the Wild Robot in that regard, but a bit more grungy, and it looks good. And it's nice to see that the director, he's clearly a massive fan, and it indicated that maybe Prey is not a fluke, that he's going to bring some good stuff to the next film.
Well, if he's doing the animated stuff as well, he's obviously hips deep in the whole franchise, isn't he? But no, that's really good to know. I will watch that then. Can I do a quick double header?
Sure.
Yeah, so Faye and I are working our way through the Scream franchise, because I realised the first Scream I watched quite a lot when I was a kid, and then I was halfway through 3, so I'm just going to talk about the first 2 today. And I know we've got a hard deadline tonight, 30 minutes from now, so I'm going to plough through this as quickly as I can. Scream, it kind of in the same way, I guess, that 28 Days Later revitalized the zombie franchise in 2002. In 1996, Scream revitalized the slasher franchise. And when you watch it now, again, this is going to be really broad strokes. I'm going to assume everyone of value has seen Scream. But it was... The whole thing was obviously just a play on slashers and your expectations of them. But what I found watching through it now as a man in his 40s is that because it's now, because Wes Craven and what the impact it had is such like a hallmark of horror, it's the first one is actually quite tedious in that it's so memeable and quotable that it goes through beats. And when they're doing their like reference, because it's such broad strokes when they're doing the references to, there's a bit where what's her name, Rose McGowan says, "Oh, this is like some sort of Wes Carpenter film," and then Wes Craven does a cameo with Freddy Krueger, and all these bits and pieces. And now they're quite blatant, whereas at the time, I guess they were doing quite exciting because they were more niche because horror wasn't such a thing. I guess mid to late 90s is like, I suppose 1995 to 2005 is to PC gaming what horror was to the movie industry. Really, it's just this like dearth of shit. So. There's a parallel there, but I watched Scream and we enjoyed it. But the bit that made me laugh, I've always hated Matthew Lillard in like 13th Ghost and like Scooby-Doo. He's always just got on my nerves. But now I realise he's actually completely brilliant, because what he does is just massively throw himself into it and just completely steal every scene in this really. And when he's supposed to be gawky, he's gawky. When he's supposed to be irritating, he's extremely irritating. And you realise he's just actually like quite good at what he's cast to do. Mm-hmm. But this is all well and good, right? Obviously, I know the killers are at the start because of his fucking stupid hair. But the bit in this that made me laugh is at the end when the two killers are stabbing each other to make it look like, and I did not remember this, and my God, it was brilliant. They're stabbing each other to make it look like, oh, we got away, but we got attacked. Skeet Ulrich stabs Matthew Ludd, and he's like, oh, I caught me this. I went a bit deeper than I should have. And then Skeet Ulrich turns around and carries on the plot and the narrative, like, haha, now we framed you. And in the background, Matthew Lillard is like, oh, and he's like, I feel really faint. And then he gets stabbed twice more off screen. And when it cuts back to him, he's sliding along. Leaving blood trails in this like really baggy shirt that's like absorbing blood. It looks really heavy and wet, like he's come out of the sea. And then Skeeter was like, "We gotta stop her. She's getting away." And he's like, "I'm feeling woozy. I can't see." And it's just so funny. It's such a brilliant scene. So, and I kind of forgot that he died, and I thought, I kind of wish he was back in the sequel. So yeah. Anyway, that was all well and good. It was good fun. Matthew Lillard, I reassessed him. He's actually brilliant. The sequel is weirdly more fun because the sort of rules have been laid out in the first one. The second one, which unbelievably was released within 12 months, I don't know how they did that. And apparently there's loads of like rewrites and stuff, but it doesn't feel like that because it can now be a tighter plot. It can now play with things a lot more because it's laid out the rules, and it does what a sequel should do in that it plays with them. And you kind of... I realized, even though I thought, have I seen this? Which obviously I didn't know who the killer was, or killers. But what I found was, I thought, I'm actually enjoying this, and I don't care who the killers are. I'm just enjoying the kills. I'm enjoying the things you should enjoy about a Scream film, about this sort of comedy slasher. And it kind of felt, in the same way that Stuart Lee is, it kind of felt sort of critic-proof. Because whatever it gets accused of or praised for could be called off as a pastiche or an accident. It's a really, really fun film to watch back to back with the original. So I'm halfway through Scream 3. I'm going to end there, and all I want to say is Courtney Cox was astonishing in 1 and 2, a beautiful, beautiful woman, and the most beautiful woman in Friends. Her hair in the third one is unforgivable.
She's never had good hair.
Are you careful now? Because I've seen Scream 1 and 2.
Okay.
You should see what her lips look like in the most recent ones.
No, she's like Famke Janssen. They just look like they're cut out of diamonds.
Yeah. I remember the original Scream trilogy being pretty consistently good. And it was... I struck by like how instantly Wes Craven just kind of nailed... The tone straight
it's
away.
Unbelievable, yeah.
The balance of comedy and like genuinely gory horror. It was quite cleverly done. I mean, he kind of knew his shit by then, I guess. So.
I just wish that at some point Neve Campbell, who is a pretty woman, had gone up to Skeet Ulrich and said, "Can you wash your And he said, "Oh no, well, I only wash my hair when Norman Reedus does." And he's just started gossip, so that's 4 years away. Yeah.
Amazing.
So yeah, I'm gonna hand. That sounds like a comedy sneeze. That was like an anime sneeze. I'm going to hand it off to Rupert now.
I'm going to talk about horror as well.
Good.
Have we talked about Speak No Evil before?
Hang on, which one is this? No, this isn't the one with Gene Wilder, is it?
No. No, this is the one with James McAvoy. Yeah.
We must have. Yes, we have. I covered it last year. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I can whiz through it anyway because I kind of liked it. This is 2024 horror. James Watkins, who's best known to me for doing Eden Lake and The Woman in Black, remake of a 2022 Danish film, I think. It stars Scoot McNairy and Mackenzie Davis as an American couple who go and visit a couple they met on holiday, played with James McAvoy and Aileen Franciosi. And they basically, this couple who live in this remote rural farm in this idyllic part of the western England somewhere. They turn out to be a bit bonkers. Both couples have got like young kids, and it's like basically the second act of this film is the best because it's an exercise in like discomfort and tension, and you got this couple, James McAvoy and this lady, like riding the line between alternative parenting and abuse, and they defend their odd behavior by gaslighting and deflection. And it's a really cool setup. It's got a good cast, good performances. I found it strange seeing Mackenzie Davis and Scoot McNairy together as a couple because they played polar opposite characters in Halt and Catch Fire on the TV. So there's some of the same uncomfortable ground as Eden Lake. And yeah, best parts of the first 2/3 with the tension building, then it turns into a pretty generic shouting and chasing final act, I found. But it's pretty efficiently made. I think with a better third act, it could have been a bit of a classic. And James McAvoy is completely bonkers in this, by the way. He's genuinely quite scary.
He's fantastic in this, yeah. He must be like 5'7", 5'8", and he's secretly one of my favorite actors because in the kind of Shia LaBeouf way, he feels like he can do anything. Like you watch him in Filth, or in this, or in X-Men, you think I believe it, I'm fine, this is good.
Yeah. I think he just throws himself into it, which you can always appreciate on the screen. You can tell when someone gives a shit. So
like in Split as well, where he literally plays 12 different, very different characters.
I like it when you get this sensation that actors don't care how they're perceived. They don't care about looking cool, or they will do what is needed.
Yeah,
and it instantly gives it like a weird, like unknowable depth if you know that actor is in a film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was the same as you. I like this. I have a feeling, and I'm going to confess that when this got to the last thing, I think this film is quite long. It's 2 hours long. I think the last 10 minutes, I was at that point where I thought, I know where this is going to go, and I just don't know. I'm done. I'm tired. So I don't think I really enjoyed the film, but the third act, or for me, the final quarter, was so like, right, okay, I can kind of see where this is going to go, that I just turned it off, read about it on Wikipedia, and thought, yeah, that was one of those.
Yeah, you get to like those last 15 minutes or something, and you don't really need to watch it to the end, because if you've worked out where it's going to go, it doesn't really have anything else up its sleeve in the end.
No.
Other than a sense of despair, I suppose. But yeah.
Are there any like horror films of this sort of nature where there's a slow burn build up and they're quite talky, and then they have like the last half an hour is just sort of chasing and screaming and waving knives around? Is there any horror films where the last act is actually really good, as sort of laden with meaning and stuff as the setup? Or do they always just like fall into stabby chase?
I think I'll have to have a long think about that, but they must exist.
I think, right, that I used to class it in my head as like the film just explodes instead of being explored. That's how I kind of lay it out in my head.
Uh-huh.
And I would say that the last time I watched a perfect horror film for me is Possum, because it's this weird mix of like horrendous tension, dark blackness, and then at the end it's foul but also quite revitalizing. And I think that there's something about that tonally that is almost like the perfect horror film. I know friends of mine who watched it and were either bored by it or really just didn't click with it. But for me, that's very, very special. And that's probably the last time I watched a film that I thought tonally it was a perfect horror. Recently, it was, what was the one with that everyone was sucking off with Nicolas Cage, and that did the same thing. It's like it hits the 60-minute or 90-minute mark if it's long, and then you realize it's like they say, right, it's a horror now. Fortunately,
a switch. It's like someone flicks a switch. I know what you mean about Possum, because the kind of revelatory part towards the end is in keeping with what's come before, and it doesn't just suddenly shift styles and speed up or anything like that. It's just,
I don't know why Possum isn't one of the most celebrated films of the last 20 years. I really don't.
It's not for everyone.
I need to watch this, don't I? But I think there was a giant spider or something on the cover, and I was like, no.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really. That is an arresting image, but it's not really the kind of focus. Mostly, is it? It's just
you show that to kids, do you?
It's so disgusting. The whole film is foul. It was like it was made for Sean Harris.
Yeah. That's another man who disappears in his roles. How can he be in that and then in Mission Impossible? I'll buy him a pint if I ever see him.
They literally brought him back in Mission Impossible.
Has he ever played like a nice guy in anything?
Has he ever raised his voice above a whisper, Lazlo, should be the question you're asking. I have to watch it again, though. That's a film I need on Blu-ray, even if it's the only film I have on Blu-ray. Watch that, then Computer Chess. It's a bloody good evening. A quiet evening, a calmer one.
And then Starship 76, was it called?
My Space Station 76.
Space Station 76, that was it. Brilliant.
Yeah. God, what a trilogy that
Triple
would be.
bill.
But yes, no, I'm glad we talked about that. I'm glad we got to talk about Possum. But Lazlo, please watch it so we can talk about it again, and so I have to watch it again because it's phenomenal. Maybe not. Maybe when you're not sat next to your wife with your arm around her and a nice bowl of popcorn between you. Maybe when you've had a shit day. Okay, so this is my final movie. I watched Night Moves, not that one, not the one from 1975 with Gene Hackman. I watched Night Moves, the chess film with Christopher Lambert. The reason this has been on my mind for the last 2 years is because you might remember this, Rupert. It was before Lazlo joined the fold. I played a gig in Neath, and I told you that they'd burned, but the posters had survived. And they have these really weird movie posters on the walls in this pub, in this venue in Neath, this gig venue called I think it was called the Duke of Wellington, and it's really dingy in there. And they had like Brian Dennehy films and like really odd, like Evil Ed, like a Swedish horror. And one of them was the poster I'm looking at right now for Night Moves with Christopher Lambert. And I thought, oh my God. I remember going over like my auntie's house to watch that film, not understanding it at all, and then every time there was a sex scene, my uncle's hands interlacing across my face to block it out. And then I could watch when there wasn't any bonking, and I thought, well, I can watch it as an adult now, and I can see Christopher Lambert's ass, can I? He's got a weirdly boyish body like Prince or Nick Cave, by the way. There's nearly a hair on there. The only hair is when he rubs a rabbit on his back. But I watched this and I kind of enjoyed it. It's a chess-based thriller from 1992, directed by Carl Schenkel, who's someone I'm not familiar with. Written by Brad Merman, so I don't know if those names mean anything to you. I should look at Carl Schenkel. No, oh my God, no, he did German stuff. Lake of the Woods. No, he did nothing. So don't worry about him. This is pretty much his only American film, a German bloke. So yeah, it's basically kicks off with these two kids playing chess in a school, and then one of them attacks the other when he loses, and it fast forwards, and Christopher Lambert is a man who sweeps his hair back, called Peter Sanderson. His wife has died of an undisclosed illness or reason, and he lives effectively in a hotel with his daughter. he's in America. He's clearly European. He's a chess grandmaster. He's in a tournament. So he's living in this hotel. And he's got a blind sort of mentor that is there with him. And he starts getting hassled by a serial killer who starts killing off people and leaving not even chess-related clues, just starts killing people, leaving like bizarre random notes and words at these various crime scenes. Christopher Lambert plays a really weird character in this because he's just really combative. Even when he is the prime suspect, he just treats people really poorly and is really offish with the police, and there's no real reason for it. It's just there to create drama. And Diane Lane, who is a beautiful woman, is a police officer who is there to sort of get close to him so he can admit that he's the killer. And she just starts sleeping with him. And even when she starts sleeping with him, they still keep her on the case. They say you shouldn't have done that, but you're still on the case, but stop sleeping with him, and she doesn't. So of course this causes more problems. It's one of those films, a 90s film, where the killer just pops out and says, "Oh, it's me," and you think, "Oh, I think I remember you." One of those. But also, apart from constant shots of his boyish body and these, like, even though he was married to Dan Lane at the time, they have no chemistry at all. He's doing his weird gaspy asthma thing. And I'm going to spoil it because it's over 20 years old, right? They spend this whole film trying to crack these codes, these weird words and letters, like the serial killer shoppiness where everything's cut out of paper and stuck in there, so it's like a serial killer thing, like letter. They're trying to, and he's like, "Oh, it's all chess moves," and he says, "Oh, this state in New York is a grid," and he's like, "Oh, if I went to F4, he'd go to G2," and I thought, how would you work that out, really? And all this sort of stuff, and it goes on and on and on, and at the end, when Christopher Lambert I can do this without spoiling it, actually, when Christopher Lambert is like about to be accused of murder because he's been so heavily framed, he finally cracks the code of these letters. And it is literally, what is it, a haiku when you write a word vertically and then other words horizontally?
What? So, as in the first letter of each sentence?
So, like, if I wrote Britt, it would be brilliant in bed, radical in bed. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like, blah, blah, blah. It's just that. And it's a very, very simple word that clearly means something to him personally. Wow. And I thought, you're telling me that the entire police force couldn't work this out. The entire police force, of course, being Daniel Baldwin and Tom Skerritt. So it's a fun film. It's a ridiculous 90s thriller. And when I watched it, I thought, good. And the fact that he works out where the killer is at the end over the phone, by hearing a very specific sound in the background that he would never, ever have heard in his life. Fantastic stuff. And 3 people work it out from that. Oh, he says,
amazing.
Hang on, that's the sound of the water pump in the hotel I'm staying at. And I thought, because you'd know that, because you're always in the basement sloshing around in knee-high water, aren't you? You prick. It was just nonsense, but it's wonderful 90s nonsense. And I watched that on Plex.
Oh, Plex. It's been a while.
Good old Plex.
How much time we got left? I've got 1, 2,
That's my
3,
last one.
4,
We've got
5,
10 minutes.
6, 7 left. Some of these, I mean, I can save for another time. Some of them I'm slightly uninclined to bother talking about. Like, I watched Anora that won all the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. It's kind of more enjoyable than I thought it would be. I was expecting something quite heavy. It's quite sort of...
It's more fun than you'd expect it to be. Yeah.
Caper type thing. But anyway, it's boring. Can't be bothered. I also watched Mountainhead, which I'm just going to skip over, which is from the guy who created Succession. And it's about 4 of the world's wealthiest kind of tech bros meet up in a mountain retreat to sort of talk about taking over the world. Kind of literally, the idea is that one of them has created a very faulty AI kind of search engine, which is throwing up loads of racist results and things.
Mm-hmm.
And
that
he
doesn't
needs
sound
one
like
of the
real
other.
life.
Yeah, and he needs one of the other guys to kind of partner with him, who's like got a super solid tech platform and knows AI better to fix it. But the other guy, just because he wants to be a dick, is like, no, I'm not going to do it, no matter how much money you offer me. And things then, as it's going on, the AI starts actually causing conflict in the world, and there's superpowers are receiving doctored images and photos and videos that the AI has generated of things going on, and they then start contemplating how actually, if the whole world just blew itself up, what could they do with their vast resources to rebuild the world in their own kind of image? And then, needless to say, they all start turning on each other. And that's at the point where the film jumps off a cliff of being quite topical and interesting, and it completely devolves into physical threat, kind of, but in a lame, semi-comedic way that has got very little intelligence to it, unfortunately. So, yeah.
This kind of reminds me of what we talked about earlier, the way that so many horror films fall apart, right? And in the final act, and it's a weird thing, in it, because you'd think by that point, an hour in or whatever, if someone's intrigued by the film, they're not gonna, like, they don't need it to suddenly shift gears if it's good, right? They don't actually need a final act which suddenly kicks off.
No, it does need to follow that throughout structure.
Shots in it, like, you could just keep it being interesting and even a bit of a slow burn, and have a clever or intriguing ending rather than just like, well, the explosive ending.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And this it doesn't go into horror territory. It just leans into physical comedy,
right?
Where I'm slightly spoiling things, but like between three of them decide to try and knock off one of the others, but they're completely ill-equipped for murder, and none of them really want to do it, and they're all trying to pin the blame on the others for trying to do it, and so it just devolves into a farce, which is fine in itself, but it had so much more going on for it than a farce about trying and failing to murder someone because you're inept at murder. So it just jumps off the rails and becomes something much simpler and much less interesting.
The most inept murder and corpse hiding, of course, being in Blood Simple by the Coen brothers. What a film. What a film.
Yeah. It's not a patch on that. Can I skip on to one that I actually would like to talk about?
Yeah,
of course.
Quickly. So I watched The Killer Elite, which I thought was going to be the original.
Hang on, the 2011 film with Robert De Niro.
No. Mm. See, that's Killer Elite. This is The Killer Elite, which I assumed, like when I discovered that, what's that, Man on Fire, discovered that was a remake. I was like, oh my God, I've found another one that I didn't know was a remake. But it just has the same title. This is not actually a remake.
Okay.
In a similar world involving CIA spies and backstabbing and so on. But this stars James Caan and Robert Duvall.
Good.
And Burt Young, who was in Rocky, is the kind of chubby ring supporting guy. Anyway.
The brother, Adrian's brother.
Is it? Yes. It's like he's the comic relief guy in the Rocky films.
Looked the same for 40 years, I remember him.
Yes. And he actually gets to fight ninjas in this, which is quite entertaining.
Oh, God.
So this is like directed by Sam Peckinpah, who's well known for making The Magnificent Seven and various other like westerns and World War II heroic bloodshed action films. This is him doing spies, and it was one of the first American films to involve ninjas, apparently. This was in 1975.
There's a long time coming.
And it's fair to say that the ninjas are tacked on to this here plot, because this is like a gritty CIA sort of spy thriller set in San Francisco, which then at the end a bunch of ninjas turn up and they just beat up the ninjas with very primitive fist fighting techniques and shooting them, and it's all very, very silly.
Goes a bit Godfrey Ho.
Yeah.
Good.
But it is like nicely shot. It was reminded me of Dirty Harry or Bullet or something, and it's sort of lovingly shot hillsides of San Francisco. The sound quality was absolutely shocking. I turned on subtitles within about 5 minutes because I could not understand what the fuck anyone was saying. So that was a bit off-putting. But the biggest problem it has, it starts with a bang where Duval and Khan are like CIA partners and they blow up a building for reasons that are unclear. And they've grabbed an asset and they take him to a safe house. And then Robert Duval kills the asset. And then because he likes Khan, he shoots him in the knee and the elbow and then tells him to retire and disappears into the night.
Because he likes him. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And but then you have to sit through 50 whole minutes. I checked the time. 50 minutes of Khan like struggling through like hospital and then like trying to physiotherapy and his gammy arm in a sling, and he's like
Raw Deal did this in 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's what it needs is a nippy 5-minute montage getting him back on his feet, but it goes on for 50 minutes.
He must fall in love with someone in the hospital as well.
Oh, this is the other thing. Yeah, the gender politics are, as you would expect, completely shocking. There's a woman, a nurse in the hospital, like he's all fucked, and she leans over him, and I can't remember, he just like grabs her tits or something, and slaps her on the arse, and she immediately falls in love with him, and then
she's Kelly LeBrock in that Steven Seagal film I watched. Okay.
And then he gets out of hospital, and they move in together. Like, it's not a problem.
Instantly.
But then the moment his like CIA handler guy says, "We need you back," Robert Duval's resurfaced or whatever, he dumps her. Like, it goes nowhere, that relationship. God. He just moves out. He's going, "I've got to go back. They need me." And then it turns into quite a fun cat and mouse action chase adventure thing.
Did he not come back into the film?
There's a bit at the very end where
he texts her to say "fuck off."
Burt Young says, like, "Aren't you going to go back to her?" And he was like, "Nah." That's it.
Happiness is for pussies. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it is good. Also, what's brilliant is, like, I think they must have decided at some point that it was too dour, so they've added in like quips over the top of the fight scenes. Like, there's a bit where like ninjas are just sort of swarming on James Caan, and you can hear him in a bored voice going, "Oh no, not another one!" And it's like clearly he's like swinging punches and kicks at the same time as this voice is just slapped on the top, just trying to make it.
Robert doing kicks, you say? My god, this is fantastic. Where was this streaming? I have to watch this.
This is on Prime.
Are you going to get back with her? Nah. Even though it's like, oh, the problem is done, the job is done. Nah, fuck her.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
His true love is the CIA.
Yeah,
that sounds amazing.
And the YMCA, any acronym really.
Yeah. Well, and also I was just going to say on the Robert Ho front. Robert Ho? What's he called? Jeffrey Ho. Godfrey Ho. Fucking hell. The editing in this is baffling. Like, it does a constant cross-cutting thing. I think it's...
You're making me tear up here, Lazlo.
It's designed to, like, elicit tension. So they're, like, traveling along on a boat, and then it will cut to a random ninja sort of creeping over a block, and it goes back to the boat, and then it goes back to another ninja who's sort of walking somewhere, and it will carry on cross-cutting between the two for 5 minutes. And you're like, are they going to attack any time soon? Like, what's going on? It's so weird.
Wow.
Yeah, great.
I think this might be us for time, so it's time to go into the ArkinZ'Dar, if that's cool, which was Roy Scheider to Marisa Tomei. We had 2 responses. So, pardon me, I got a bit. I'll mute myself
it's hard.
So that the lady still fancy me.
I found this weirdly hard.
So, Max says Roy Scheider is in the French Connection with Gene Hackman, who's in the Royal Tenenbaums with Gwyneth Paltrow, who's in Captain America Civil War with Marisa Tomei. P.S. In honor of Mission Impish, Tomei plays Spider-Man's aunt, and I recall people saying she was too young for the role, but that's only because she's a complete burner. She's 52 in it, which is comfortably old enough to be his aunt. And he also says, P.S. Britt, in honor of Mission Impossible, I propose a supplementary ArkinZ'Dar linking David Schneider to Roy Scheider to Rob Schneider and Liv Schreiber. Possibly Al Cliver, though that might be too hard. So if anyone, I don't even know who David Schneider is.
David Schneider's hard enough.
Oh, well, he's in Mission Impossible.
Is he the one who was the one in the with the laddish body was in that pirate film I watched last year?
Probably not. David Schneider was the train driver in Mission Impossible, so you've got that.
He's the
sort of poked up nose with the
I mean, he's a British TV actor. He worked with like Chris Morris, didn't he, in the 90s?
Okay, so we'll say. He was in Alan Partridge, isn't he? As the head of the BBC. Yeah. Okay, so this is a bonus. So this is separate to what we normally do. David Schneider to Roy Scheider to Rob Schneider and Liv Schreiber.
Can these be in any order? You just got to know them all, right?
Yes, any order. Yeah. Okay, so that's going to be a fun one. I'll try and do that.
That should be the ArkinZ'Dar for next week. That's fine. It's a special one.
Is it?
Jesus Christ.
Easy.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'll keep the one I was going to. So yeah, that's the ArkinZ'Dar
this week.
So that just one last time. David Schneider to Roy Scheider to Rob Schneider to Liv Schreiber. It'd be easier if I said David Schneider to Rob Schneider to Roy Scheider to Liv Schreiber. Jesus Christ. And everyone needs to watch Night Game with Roy Scheider. So that was Max. Actually. Did you enjoy it?
I did, yeah.
It was just him. Did you see when he hit his head? And he was like, for a full day, he was baffled.
I wasn't sure if he did that accidentally on set, or whether that was intended or not.
And they just put it in. It didn't go on. He really looked like he clocked it. Dave Chod says Roy Scheider was in The Punisher with John Travolta, who was in Wild Hogs with Marisa Tomei. I have not seen Wild Hogs. That's a 3-stepper.
Bloody hell.
No, that's a 2-stepper. It's 2-stepper, yeah. Wow. So what have you guys got?
I've got double that. I could only get 4-steppers.
yeah.
Shit. I'll go with Marisa Tomei is in My Cousin Vinny with James Rebhorn, who's in The Game with Michael Douglas, who's in The American President with Richard Dreyfuss, who's in Jaws with Roy Scheider.
Richard Dreyfuss doesn't look very well these days, by the way.
Oh, really?
No.
Awesome.
He looks like...
He looks better than Roy Scheider.
Probably.
That's a consolation.
They both have the same skin routine, I think.
Yeah, Richard Dreyfuss' head is starting to resemble one of those statues on Christmas Island or whatever it's called.
I mean, his hairline is a memory that lives on only in family pictures. Lazlo, what have you got up your sleeve?
Another 4-stepper, and quite a boring one. Roy Scheider was in Jaws with Richard Dreyfuss, who was in Red with Bruce Willis, who was in Pulp Fiction with Samuel L. Jackson, who was in Spider-Man with Marisa Tomei. So boring. I used Pulp Fiction, Red, and Marvel to get that one done.
Staple ensemble.
So I know Rupert's got to skedoodle and do his thing, so join us. I hope you've enjoyed it. The next ArkinZ'Dar is David Schneider to Liv Schreiber to Roy Scheider to Rob Schneider. And join us next time for Is It a Bird? Is it a Plane? No, it's a drink problem. A little piece I've got called Beautiful here. And something for everyone to think about just before we sign off. If you were locked into a room and you pushed in there and sat down in a chair with handcuffed, and they put a 14-inch TV on and said you're not allowed to leave this room until you've seen all of this TV series, what would it be for you? We've had a lot of answers, but that is for next week. I love you both, and I hope that we never speak again.
Brilliant. Until next week.
End on a high.